it that separates a banjo built by hand like that from something, that might be mass produced or
I get
built
that.
differently?
People ask me that question a lot in the store about higher end instruments that are several thousands, $10,000. And basically what it boils down to give you a quick answer, is the final fit and finish of all the parts and the function of all the parts sort of being a greater sum than the parts. When it's all together, it's all that little attention to detail really makes a difference in the final instrument.
So had you started playing the banjo for a while before you got the idea of making them?
Yeah, this guy used to come into the store I worked at,
Yeah.
and he'd grab a banjo and he'd play, and I'd just be fascinated by how much sound is coming out of that claw. How much is going on, and it just looks like it's not doing anything, and it was just fascinating to me. So after about a year of this guy coming in, I finally asked him to teach me how to play, and he did.
How does your playing affect your approach to making the instruments?
I want to be able to understand what I produced and what subtle changes I might make, how that affects the instrument. But also I've found that it comes in handy to have a fairly in-depth knowledge of the instrument when I get feedback from expert players or from professionals that buy them or asking me questions when they're trying them out, or even just telling me, I like how this has a certain whatever they like about it, and I'm not in the dark about that because I play myself.
Anything that you think you are bringing to these banjos that's unique to your approach and unique just because of your history in woodworking?
Personally, I think I'm one of the few guys in the country that's doing a chambered wood tone ring and a wood 7-ply wood tension hoop, and then of course all the everything is done by hand. We shape as you well know, we shape the back of the neck. Everything is just kind of sculpted by hand, and you really get intimate with it when you're working on it. You know every part of it by the time you're finished.
Right.
It's
kind of hard.
It's very rewarding.
Kind of hard to say goodbye when the time
It is.
comes. Looking at your wood pile and thinking about it all, what sets you on that path of what woods?
So I've been working with domestic woods, and the actual building of the instrument kind of begins when I'm pulling the boards out of the pile. I'm thinking about where I can get a neck, and I can get this part, try to get all the parts out of one board or two boards that may have been cut one right after another off the log. Kind of start there, and then it just goes through the whole process. When I do the initial mill work, cutting up all my rough parts and keeping everything separate and synchronized so that I know exactly where everything is supposed to be.
What's sort of the most time intensive and maybe the most important aspect of the machining process?
The most important, I guess, would be the precision, fitting and cutting of all the parts. It is tedious, and there's a lot of steps, but I think the most time on one particular task would be the sculpting and carving of the neck profile, and getting everything to flow and aesthetically look the way it should.
And how about that tone ring? How did that come to you?
Couldn't sleep one night, and just was kind of had the idea of, could I do a tubophone style tone ring out of wood? And I just started kind of visualizing in my mind the construction process, how I would approach it, and kind of visualizing every step of the process from start to finish. And couldn't find any pitfalls or reason why I couldn't do it.
Sure.
And so the next morning I rolled out of the bed into the wood pile and did it.
That must have been a fine moment when you first strung one of those up and listened to it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a tubophone, but it has that old-time banjo sound. So it's a really sweet combination of both. So this is banjo number 43. So at this point, it's pretty consistent that if I stick to my recipe, I know that the sound is going to be in a certain area and it's going to sound good. But still, hearing that for the first time with each instrument, they're each a little bit different.
And what did you hear from this one that might stand out, like if you were to sort of talk about the quality of this one?
Well, it has a good balance in the notes. The volume on the strings and the tone. It has a real mellow sound, but good volume. It also has bright. You know, it has a good bright end that you don't really have to dig out too hard for it to get it. So it's just.
That wood tension hoop.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if that's going on anywhere else.
The tension hoop, I started doing that at a necessity, but I was going to have a guy make some for me. I was kind of stuck for about a day thinking about what am I going to do for tension hoops when I build a rim that's not exactly 11 or 12, and so that inspired the idea of the 7-ply wood tension hoop, which I knew I could make if I needed to. I just never had thought of it. You know, and having a wood chamber tone ring or the traditional tone ring with a wood tension hoop, there's very little metal in this thing, and they're super light.
Feels great.
It's just light as a.
Yep. Yep, that's one of the things. Yeah, you pick it up.
And lively, you know, all that.
Quite the sound with something so light, and it just rings.
Yeah, and you just feel the notes and the vibrations going through the entire instrument.
Any part that just, you know, stands out as the best part of it?
No, there's a lot of parts that are really enjoyable, like playing it for the first time. To know that the skills that I've acquired in that 20 years in millwork and cabinetry, apply those skills to a new career, a creative outlet like this, and music, and you know, another person's instrument that they cherish or whatever. That to me that's the most fun part.
So I'm taking number 43 home with me. You know, you gonna stop at 44?
No.
Where do you think?
Well, I have to make another one like this.
Yeah.
For one. I have no idea where this is going, really. I'm just going to keep making them. If they sell, that's great. If I end up with a bunch of wall hangers decorating my house, that's okay too. But so far, everything is sold except the 2 I've collected for myself. This last June, I did a bluegrass festival, had a booth, brought all the banjos I had, and in the first 2 days, sold them all. So that was really cool, and kind of gave me a new plan to add to the selling of them in addition to out of the store.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think I could take this in any direction I choose to go. It's just it's kind of nice to have the control over it. I don't do custom orders. I just make them, and if people play them and like them, they can buy them. I'd like to be able to work freely without anybody saying they don't like this or they would rather have that or any of that stuff. I had enough of that with my furniture stuff. So the more I do, it's still very exciting. This is 40 something. I'm sure if I ever get to 140 or 80 or whatever, it's still the most exciting moment. There's 2 moments: is when I have it, the neck is set and the glue is setting to take it from parts to an actual instrument that's going to work together, to putting the final strings and setup on it and strumming it or playing it for that first time.
Sure.
It's I feel like a Jedi, like I've constructed my own lightsaber and I am all powerful.
Yep.
So Michael, what's it like playing an instrument that was made for you specifically, but also you assisted in the making of it?
You know, this is one of my most prized possessions now, right? You know, this is something that
I kind of like it.
Yeah. So that sounds mighty fine when he's playing that, but it's mine.